I understand that you are the first cohort that will be affected by the closure of SA account next year as you turn 55.
Yes.
And earlier you have also expressed to me your choice of keeping only up to the full retirement sum and then withdrawing the excess above the FRS.
Okay. So CPF at age 55, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
So first, I'll be explaining what my rationale is for keeping just the full retirement sum or FRS. And then later on, I'll share with you some ideas about what I think I'm going to do with the money that I withdraw. But as a disclaimer, we are not financial advisors, and none of these recommendations in the video is about recommending any financial products, any investment products. It is about my choice or what I want to do with my CPF funds. Agenda for today, the world has really changed a lot since I started my first job in 1994.
Over 30 years ago.
That's 30 years to this year.
Yeah.
And I came back from scholarship from London to work in Singapore Airlines as an analyst. Things, of course, have moved. I will take you through some of the data so that you have an understanding of how I came to this decision for my own financial planning. Of course, after Singapore Airlines, I've also worked in international banks 2 times. I'm also now teaching finance and investments for real estate and also market analysis for real estate. So I have got a little bit of understanding of financial matters, and I believe that I'm able to manage my own funds. So that's why later on I'll share with you what is my preferred path for managing my retirement funds and what are some of the activities that I look forward to doing. So in 1994, the CPF minimum sum, at the time the term was called minimum sum, was at, when I started my work, was at $34,600. But 30 years later, as I approach the first sort of retirement planning deadline, which is 55 years old, the terminology has changed to full retirement sum, and it is $213,000.
Yeah.
Of course, there's also the basic retirement sum, which is half of this.
Yeah.
And there's also the now new enhanced retirement sum that is 2 times of this at $426,000 for next year. So I prefer to just keep it at the FRS 213,000 K, and because I've had the past 30 years of contributing to CPF, half of that past 30 years I was employed, so CPF payments were almost monthly. Of course, there were certain periods where I was retrenched due to the financial crisis and all that. And then subsequently, even as a owner of a property agency, although the income was sporadic, I also had some teaching jobs, some other consulting jobs in between where CPF contributions were pretty good. And so I've got more than enough in FRS. I could actually go for enhanced retirement sum here, but I think I will opt for FRS only. The reason for the government putting up these high numbers, later on I'll be sharing.
I think that would be very interesting for me, at least at my age, to
understand the context and the background of the last 30 years.
30 years old, or 1 more year to 30. At least it gives me some context of how do I plan my retirement in 25 years.
Correct. The trajectory for you over the next 20 years could be similar. So another point, when I started work, retirement age at that time was just pushed up from 55 years old to 60 years old in 1994. But now it is at 63 years old, the mandatory retirement age. And we know from announcements and from government
By
statements that
2030.
by 2030 it will be 65. So the age number, whether it's retirement, CPF sums, and CPF payout eligibility age. When I started work, payout eligibility age in 1994 was 60 years old. And then now that I'm hitting my first milestone, yeah, it is at 65 years old. So you can see that actually the CPF payout eligibility age, that is when the CPF sums will be paid back to us in monthly installments, has actually gone a little bit ahead, faster
Then
than the retirement age. So
there seems to be some correlation. I'm not sure, just based on this chart.
there should be, because I think together with the larger and larger, higher and higher sums that we have got to keep in the account, the government wants us to save for our longer and longer lifespans, right?
Yeah.
But then I've plotted this chart all the way out to the year 2030, but we are not very sure whether this payout eligibility age would remain at 65 years old for the next few years, or perhaps when retirement age hits 65 years old, the payout eligibility age might also be pushed up. So we don't know, but at least looking back at my last 30 years of working life, this is what we have. The goal post has shifted, and in all likelihood will keep shifting. Yes. The rationale for all of this, of course, is our better healthcare, our better longevity. Of course, as a nation, we are all better educated to take care of ourselves. We are always encouraged to live healthy, do our exercises, don't eat sinful stuff. Right? So the environment, healthcare, plus our lifestyles all have helped us to. When I started work, it was 76 years old, the life expectancy at birth. And now it is at 83. Of course, COVID caused a little bit of a blip in the last few years. But over the next few years, I think if there's no more pandemic coming to hurt us, the trajectory is upwards. Definitely. And who knows, by the time I'm 65 years old, in 10 years' time, it might get past the 85, going towards the 90-year mark. And so we have got to plan for more years of not being economically productive, not receiving income, but then we are spending money, keeping ourselves alive for 30 years after we have stopped to work. And
so in light of his higher life expectancy, what you're saying is that there's a possibility that the payout eligibility age could be could change from its current number.
Not only the age, there could also be adjustments to the plans of how much is paid out. It could also be in the form of paying you less and less, and then with larger and larger balloon payments towards the end as you grow older. There could also be changes to the allocation more into MediSave and MediShield, because with longevity, of course, the healthcare cost component would also increase, right?
Yeah.
So all these adjustments, I'm sure the policy planners are looking at it. But the aging demographics of the country as a whole, from the perspective of a good fund manager, the fund manager meaning CPF board, as a good fund manager, they'll be looking across the entire spectrum of who is contributing to CPF. The younger and younger people, they are starting to come into the working world, right? They'll start to contribute, but their contributions might be at 1,000, 1,500 a month, depending on starting salaries of the poly grads and university grads. They contribute at the 500 to $2,000 a month range, right? And that's month by month. And then, of course, as a good fund manager, you'll also be looking at over the next few years, what sort of redemptions are happening. People who turn 55, they'll be redeeming some money from their ordinary accounts, like whatever is above the FRS or ERS. There'll be people who would be redeeming, of course, along the way, they might redeem it to be put into HDB flats or to buy their houses. Some, of course, will be using the funds for financial investment. But for those who are passing away, the redemption is one shot. Because as you pass away, let's say your remaining $125,000 in your various CPF accounts, which are willed to your beneficiaries, the entire chunk of 100 over 1,000 that is left behind is immediately paid out in the lump sum to your loved ones. So CPF board statisticians would be modeling to see, in case of how many people dying at what age and passing on and closing their CPF accounts, how much might be the payout. And you can see that this big group of baby boomers are approaching our 83, 85 years old expiry age, right? And this large, high bars, more and more of them will be redeeming as they pass away, compared to the young people who are starting to contribute monthly at $1,000 to $2,000 of CPF. So I think looking at this maybe sort of increasing need for redemption versus our lower birth rate with the fewer lower contributions, perhaps there is also a chance that they would tweak some of the CPF withdrawal as well as payout eligibility, as well as retirement age, as well as maybe the 55 years old first hurdle could also be pushed up. Sometimes these are speculative, but looking at the history of the last 30 years,
but just looking at this demographics chart that we have over here, it seems like a CPF problem, but for myself as a real estate agent, I do see this also becoming a real estate problem, but maybe we keep that for another video.
Definitely this chart is has a CPF withdrawal versus redemption consideration. But in addition, given that so many of us here have used CPF funds for our HDB flats and our residential property purchases, there will also be an impact, especially for the older ones who are expiring soon.
Yeah, but we'll keep that for another video.
Let's
maybe now that you have given us your rationale, maybe you can tell us what will you be doing with the excess funds that you're going to withdraw from your CPF OA? What are your plans?
I'm lucky to have contributed quite a lot to CPF, and over the years, of course, some part of my CPF funds have been used to buy a roof over my head for myself. So of course I didn't earn as much CPF interest as I could. Subsequently, when the apartment was sold, some of the CPF funds went back in. So now I'm above the FRS amount. The part that above the FRS, probably about 100,000 extra. Of course, at 55 next year, I can't be just using that money and then waiting to be at 65 years old to withdraw the monthly amounts from CPF. So I will be continuing to run the real estate agency and consultancy business. I still have some teaching responsibilities, and I'm still actively doing research and consultancy work. Of course, once I withdraw a lump sum from CPF, I want to be able to manage it on my own. Given that the government has already provided me with a world-class education for so many years, I believe I'm able to manage that small pile of money by myself. But of course, with a mind that I'm I should be protecting it firstly for later part of life, assuming that I can live until 85, that's another 30 years.
Yeah.
What happens if I manage to live to 1993? That's even longer.
Yep.
So protection, capital preservation would be important. My thinking about withdrawing this lump sum is also about cash flow and flexibility. So although keeping it in CPF OA would earn a very steady and fixed interest rate, or better still, keeping it in the enhanced retirement sum up to the 426,000 might pay me even more.
Yep.
But I'm losing some of the flexibility there. There are financial packages outside from the financial planners that I've been engaged with. Some of them are friends, some of them are business partners. They have already shown me that there are various schemes that are either capital protected, guaranteed. Some have got a bit of insurance element to it. Some you let them manage the funds and then they pay you back in terms of annuity. So for people who are interested, perhaps they could contact you or me and then we are. But certainly that's worth exploring for next year. Then for me, next few years in terms of my career and my work, I want to experience living a slow life in Japan, getting myself involved with some of the urban regeneration work, revitalizing old villages. Perhaps that could also help me improve my mental and physical well-being. And in my plans are at least 2 more books that I'm interested to write over the next few years.